Let me ask you something quietly, intimately. Have you ever felt betrayed by someone you thought was for you? Have you ever looked into the eyes of a friend, a sibling, a parent, and realized they were not clapping for your growth, but hoping you'd stay small? If you've ever felt that cold, disorienting moment, you are not alone. There's a dangerous myth we carry around with us from childhood, that people who love us can't hurt us. That if someone is close to us, by blood, by history, by shared memories, they must be safe. We confuse time spent with trust earned. We assume proximity means purity. But here's the truth: most people are afraid to say out loud. Demons hide behind familiarity. And the closer someone stands to you, the easier it is for them to wound you without you even realizing it. You see, manipulation rarely comes from strangers. Betrayal never starts with someone unknown. It begins in comfort zones. It starts with the ones who have learned your patterns, your vulnerabilities, your deepest wounds, and the hardest part. At first, you won't even recognize it, because they don't come with open hostility. They come dressed as concern. Their tools are not swords. They're sarcasm, guilt, and subtle competition. The demon does not appear with fangs. It appears with a smile. But here's the key to understanding this: the mask always cracks over time, because behavior has a rhythm, and while words may lie, patterns never do. That's how you start spotting the truth. Not through single moments, but through repetition. It's in the way they always go silent when you're excited, the way they turn every conversation back to themselves when you're in pain. It's in the little jabs disguised as jokes, the "I'm just playing" comments that always hit you where it hurts most, the "I'm just worried about you" lines that only seem to surface when you're starting to grow. They might even do kind things for you. They might buy you gifts, show up at your events, post you online. But kindness isn't proof of safety. Patterns are. A demon doesn't show you their true self in the beginning. They show you who they know you want them to be. That's how they earn your trust. That's how they get inside your heart, your home, your decisions. And the more they know about you, the easier it is to plant seeds of self-doubt. They don't have to attack you directly. They just need to make you question your intuition. Just enough to stay quiet. Just enough to keep you frozen in the fog. You ever notice how some people only come alive when you're struggling? How they suddenly become more available when your life is falling apart, but disappear when things start going well? That's not support. That's spiritual feeding. There are people who thrive off your dysfunction because your pain gives them purpose. Your weakness makes them feel strong. Your chaos keeps you dependent. That is the subtle energy of the demons. They don't want to destroy you. They just want to keep you small enough not to outgrow them. And here's where most people get trapped. They confuse that familiarity with loyalty. But we've known each other for years. But they've been through everything with me. But they're family. You can love someone and still realize they're not healthy for you. You can honor the past without giving it permission to control your future. Familiarity does not equal safety. Shared memories don't cancel out repeated harm. The first step to freedom is giving yourself permission to see what you see. Stop gaslighting your own instincts. Stop making excuses for people who keep violating your peace. If someone's presence consistently triggers anxiety, guilt, confusion, or emotional instability, that's a pattern. That's not love. That's a power dynamic disguised as relationship, and it has to be addressed. Now, I know this kind of clarity can feel lonely, because once you start seeing the patterns, you start seeing everything. You notice the way conversations always revolve around their ego. You catch the subtle digs they throw when others praise you. You hear the difference between encouragement and sabotage, and suddenly your whole world starts to shift. But that's the point. That's the awakening. Because you cannot become who you were born to be while remaining blind to the dynamics keeping you emotionally hostage. The good news: once you learn to see these patterns, you'll never unsee them again. You'll walk into a room and feel the energy shift. You'll know when someone's interest is genuine or when they're masking resentment. You'll feel when a question is laced with care or with control. This is the beginning of discernment. And discernment, more than intelligence or education, is what protects your peace. So yes, demons hide behind familiarity. But they reveal themselves through repetition, through the way they make you feel small, confused, hesitant. Pay attention. Because your freedom doesn't come from confronting them, it comes from finally recognizing them. And once you do, the power they had over you begins to die. One of the most painful realizations in life is discovering that some of the people you love only love the weaker, quieter, more dependent version of you. The version whose second guessed everything. The version who asked for permission before making bold moves. The version who kept their light dimmed just to avoid making anyone else uncomfortable. And when you start to grow, when you start rising, when you begin to heal and honor your truth, that love starts to shift. Not into support, but into subtle resistance. And you're left wondering, why does becoming better feel like losing people? It's because some people only loved the version of you that didn't threaten their insecurities. See, real love, the kind that liberates, not limits, doesn't require you to shrink. It doesn't flinch at your brilliance. It doesn't become cold when you speak with clarity or back away when you start walking in alignment. Real love doesn't need you to betray your growth just to maintain a connection. And yet, many of us grew up believing we had to choose love or freedom. Think about it. How often did you quiet your voice to keep the peace? How many times did you downplay your success so no one felt left behind? How many moments did you laugh off the comments that made you feel small just because you didn't want to seem dramatic? That isn't love. That's survival. And survival becomes the default when love is conditional. The truth is, most people are not taught how to love evolving beings. They're used to static relationships, where everyone plays a role, sticks to the script, and doesn't disturb the emotional status quo. So when you begin to change, they see it as rebellion. They think you're pulling away. But really, you're just becoming more of yourself. And the sad part, the more you align with your truth, the more they try to distort your motives. They'll call your boundaries selfish. They'll say you've changed. They'll accuse you of thinking you're better than them. But you're not better. You're just braver now. This is where the real test begins. Will you dim to be accepted again? Or will you stand firm in your light and risk losing those who never truly celebrated it? It takes immense courage to choose the latter, to say, I love you, but I can't keep betraying myself to keep this connection alive, to walk away from relationships that were built on your silence, not your authenticity. But I'll tell you this, anything that requires you to betray your growth is not love, it's control. And you don't owe anyone the version of you that you fought so hard to outgrow. You are not selfish for evolving. You are not ungrateful for setting boundaries. You are not arrogant for wanting more. You are simply tired of dimming your light to keep others comfortable in their shadows. And the irony is, the people who truly love you, the ones who are aligned with your soul, will never be intimidated by your evolution. They'll celebrate your wins like their own. They'll listen when your voice gets stronger. They'll applaud your healing even if it means you become less accessible. Because their love isn't based on how much you need them. It's based on who you are with or without them. Let this be your permission slip to stop apologizing for your shine. Let this be the end of editing yourself just to fit back into spaces you've outgrown. You don't have to justify your joy. You don't need approval to heal. And you don't need to carry guilt for becoming what you were always meant to be. This chapter of your life, it's not about proving your worth to those who can't see it. It's about honoring it yourself. So if someone can't handle your truth, if your progress makes them retreat, if your boundaries trigger their defensiveness, it's not your job to make yourself smaller. It's your job to keep growing. And in that growth, you'll attract a different kind of love. A love that doesn't just tolerate your evolution, but thrives in it. A love that doesn't just accept you, but celebrates every version you're becoming. Real love expands with you. Anything else is just a leash with a smile. Guilt is one of the most dangerous emotions when it's not rooted in truth. It is the quiet manipulator. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It doesn't attack. It wraps itself around your heart and tells you to stay still, to stay small, to stay available to those who benefit from your silence. And for many of us, guilt was the first emotional leash we were ever handed, long before we had the words to name it. We learned early that love could be taken away, that approval was conditional, that saying no would come with consequences. And so, little by little, we made ourselves palatable. We twisted into shapes that made others more comfortable. We sacrificed needs to keep the peace. And we called that maturity. We called it being a good child, a good partner, a loyal friend. But in truth, it was the beginning of forgetting ourselves. Now, here's the hard part. The people who are most skilled at using guilt to control you often don't even know they're doing it. They just know how to pull the right emotional strings. They know how to say things like, after all I've done for you, or I guess you're too busy for me now, or you've changed. And just like that, you feel it, that tightening in your chest, That weight, that ache that makes you question your decisions. And instead of moving forward, you pause. You go back, you try to prove you're still good, still kind, still loyal. But this is what you have to understand. Guilt is not always a signal that you've done something wrong. Sometimes it's the residue of your conditioning. Sometimes it's the echo of someone else's expectations. Sometimes it's the weapon used by someone who cannot handle your evolution. You see, guilt becomes a leash when it's used to keep you accessible to people who no longer align with your life. When it's used to make you feel responsible for someone else's unhappiness. When it's used to twist your boundaries into betrayal. That's when it becomes toxic. That's when it stops being conscience and starts being control. I want you to remember this: you are not responsible for other people's reactions to your healing. Let that sink in. You are not required to stay in places that drain you just because someone calls it love. You are not obligated to explain, defend, or justify your growth. And you are absolutely not here to carry the emotional weight of those who refuse to carry their own. But guilt will try to convince you otherwise. It will show up when you say no for the first time. It will knock on your door when you choose peace over drama. It will whisper lies when you create distance from chaos. And that's where your strength must come in. Not from fighting guilt, but from understanding it, from seeing it clearly, from asking, is this guilt based on something I did wrong, or is it based on someone else's inability to accept my truth? That single question can set you free. Because here's the deeper truth. People who genuinely love you will never use guilt as a leash. They won't need to manipulate your emotions to keep you close. They won't shame your boundaries. They won't question your motives just because your priorities have shifted. Real love doesn't need control to survive. It doesn't punish, it adapts. It listens. It honors your becoming. But for those who have relied on your guilt to keep you in place, your growth feels like betrayal, and they'll do anything to pull you back into the box you fought so hard to break out of. Not because they're evil, but because your freedom reminds them of their own imprisonment. Let that be your compass. The more guilt you feel for doing what's right for your soul, the more evidence you have that something was wrong to begin with. You don't owe anyone an apology for protecting your peace. You don't have to feel bad for prioritizing your mental and emotional health. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to outgrow dynamics that once felt normal. And you are absolutely allowed to let go of people who only love you when you are easy to control. So if guilt has been the chain around your neck, let this be the moment you start to unfasten it slowly, deliberately, without rage, without bitterness, but with unwavering clarity. Because guilt only has power when you agree to wear it. And you didn't come this far to be leashed to a version of yourself that no longer exists. You came to be free. So choose freedom, even when it makes others uncomfortable, even when it triggers old conditioning, even when your voice shakes. Peace is not loud. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or applause. But when it's there, you feel it. Not just in your mind, but in your nervous system. It's the soft exhale after years of holding your breath. It's the stillness in a conversation where you don't have to perform. It's the deep knowing that you are safe. Not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, energetically. And this is how you start identifying who is truly meant to be in your life. Pay attention to your peace. We're taught to measure relationships by longevity, by loyalty, by titles. Friend, partner, family. But none of those are reliable indicators of alignment, because you can spend years around someone and still feel unseen. You can share blood and still feel emotionally orphaned. You can talk every day and still walk on eggshells. The only real evidence of a healthy connection is how regulated your nervous system feels in their presence. Ask yourself this when you're around them. Do you breathe easier or harder? Do you feel safe to speak your truth? Or do you rehearse your words, fearing their reaction? Do you feel expanded, or do you feel like you're shrinking? That's the test. That's the data. That's the truth your body tells you when your brain is still making excuses. Because here's the reality: energy doesn't lie. Your body keeps score. Your spirit feels the weight of suppressed expression. And over time, the cost of staying around people who disturb your peace becomes too heavy to carry. Some people will say all the right things. They'll call you family, say they love you, post about how much you mean to them, but your body knows better. Your spirit knows when you're merely being tolerated versus when you're being embraced. You know the difference between being invited into a space and being truly welcomed. Peace is not passive. It's not weakness. It's power. Because it takes tremendous strength to hold a space where another person can fully exhale, to listen without agenda, to support without competition, to stand beside someone without needing to outshine them. Those who can do that, they are rare. And when you find them, you will know. Not because they say the right words, but because you feel yourself becoming more alive in their presence. This is where discernment begins. When you stop asking, do they love me? And start asking, do I feel peace around them? When you stop getting caught in emotional history and start tuning into present energy. Because someone can love you deeply and still be wrong for your journey. Someone can love you in the only way they know how, and it still might not be enough for the person you're becoming. You have to get honest about what love feels like when it's healthy, when it's not laced with fear or control, when it doesn't ask you to carry guilt or perform perfection, when it lets you be whole, not just convenient. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It's the presence of respect, understanding, and emotional safety. And if you've never had that before, it might feel unfamiliar. It might feel boring at first. You might even sabotage it because your nervous system is addicted to chaos. But that's okay. Healing is messy. Peace requires reconditioning. You have to teach your body that love without anxiety isn't a trick. It's just unfamiliar because you haven't known it yet. It's time to stop romanticizing relationships that keep you in survival mode. It's time to stop justifying the pain because of history. We've been through so much together is not a reason to stay in a space that harms your well-being. What matters now is how you feel now, not who they used to be. Not how things once were, but what their presence does to your soul today. Because here's the hard truth: peace cannot exist where emotional safety is absent. And if someone consistently disrupts your inner calm, no matter how much they claim to love you, it is not your job to fix them. It's your job to protect yourself. You deserve to be around people who make your heart feel light, who don't compete with your light, but mirror it back to you, who don't punish your boundaries, but honor them, who don't make you question your worth with subtle jabs or passive aggression, but remind you that you are already enough. The right people won't make you earn rest, safety, or joy. They are the space where those things come naturally, and that's how you know peace is not the reward, it's the signal. Growth is not glamorous. It's not a highlight reel. It's not always inspirational music playing in the background while you work out or meditate or journal. Real growth is raw. It's lonely. It's painful. It shatters illusions. And the most jarring truth of all, your evolution doesn't just change your life. It reveals what was never real in it to begin with. As you rise into your next chapter, don't be surprised when people start falling away. Don't be shocked when the ones who once cheered you on begin to shrink into silence, or worse, start attacking you in subtle ways. It's not always because you did something wrong. It's because the new you forces them to meet a version of themselves they've spent their whole life avoiding. You're no longer the mirror that reflects their comfort. You're now the mirror that reflects their stagnation. And that kind of reflection burns. We often think that removing demons from our lives is about confrontation, that we need to point fingers, scream truths, burn bridges. But most of the time, it doesn't work like that. You don't have to fight your demons or theirs. All you have to do is grow, just evolve, just become more disciplined, more focused, more aligned, more honest with yourself. Just start choosing your healing over your habits, your peace over their approval, your destiny over their dysfunction, and watch what happens. Watch who stops calling. Watch who starts throwing shade. Watch who suddenly becomes distant, critical, or condescending. That's not coincidence. That's exposure. Because when you elevate your standards, those unwilling to meet you there won't know how to stay. They'll find reasons to make you wrong. They'll paint your confidence as arrogance. They'll call your solitude selfishness. But what they're really saying is, I don't recognize you anymore, and it scares me. The truth is, they were never for the real you. They were for the version of you that kept them comfortable. The version that didn't speak up. The version that didn't challenge their behavior. The version that apologized for taking up space. But you're not that person anymore. You've started setting boundaries. You've begun reclaiming your voice. You're making different choices, not out of spite, but out of survival. Because the old life was killing your spirit. And now, as you walk into the version of yourself that's built on truth, the false attachments have nowhere to hide. Evolution is a divine filter. It sifts through your relationships not to destroy them, but to reveal their foundations. Were they built on real connection or co-dependency, mutual respect or emotional manipulation? shared growth, or mutual avoidance of growth? Your rise answers those questions. And here's what you need to understand. This is not punishment. This is protection. The people falling away. That's alignment in action. That's your energy becoming so clean, so clear, so convicted that anything murky can't hold on to you anymore. Not because you push them out, but because they can't breathe in the truth you now live in. But I won't lie, it hurts. It hurts to lose people you once cried with, laughed with, shared your dreams with. It hurts to realize that some of the most intimate moments of your past were shared with people who only loved the version of you they could manage, not the one you were meant to become. And in that grief, you'll be tempted to shrink again, to go back to what's familiar, to soften your boundaries, to explain your evolution. Do not shrink to keep demons comfortable. Do not lower your vibration to remain in the room with people who flinch at your light. Because your evolution is not a threat to the right people. It's an invitation. The ones meant for you won't need you to explain your healing. They'll honor it. They'll rise with you. Or they'll respectfully release you, knowing that growth is sacred even when it changes everything. You are not losing people. You are shedding illusions. The version of you that lived for approval, that stayed silent to keep the peace, that tolerated manipulation out of love, that version had to survive. But this version is ready to thrive. And thriving requires clarity. It demands alignment. And it will always expose what's not meant to come with you. So let it. Let your evolution be loud, quiet, messy, graceful. However it needs to be. Just don't stop. Don't shrink. Don't apologize. Because every demon that's falling away right now isn't a loss. It's a breakthrough. Your healing is disrupting everything unaligned. That's not a crisis. That's your becoming. If you've listened to everything I just shared and felt something in your chest, like a tightening, a remembering, a confirmation, you are in the middle of a powerful awakening. You are not crazy. You are not too sensitive. You are not wrong for feeling what you feel. You are finally seeing clearly. Demons don't always look like enemies. Sometimes they look like people who once saved us, but now resent the version of us who saves ourselves. It's time to let them go. You don't need to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You don't need to beg for support from people who benefit from your insecurity. And you sure as hell don't need to stay small to be loved. You were not born to tiptoe through your own life. You were born to rise. So walk forward, eyes open, spine strong, heart clean. Let the light of your truth expose what needs to leave, and let the peace that follows be your reward. Not everyone deserves access to your destiny, and that's not bitterness, that's alignment.